question your motive for this chat.
Man, I don't know what that is. Motor, come on, bro. I play both ends of the floor. My name is Dominating. I anchor the Phoenix Suns on both ends of the floor. Motor, really? You gonna talk about the motor, man? Nope, I run on Tesla battery. Full of charge.
And Deandre Ayton, in the words of the great Mike Jones, head coach in Indiana basketball, that man must not have passed PE 9 boys, because he looked scared to get the ball when they had little guys on him. Yep. When they had like whether it's KCP guarding him or Bruce Brown or something like that.
We're going to react to a play in a second, but keep going.
It's like, dude, demand the damn ball.
Yep.
Like you got to demand the ball, and he just wasn't. And I get it. Like maybe you got to defend Jokic as well. The first 5 minutes of the game, I thought he did pretty good, and then the rest of the game, it did not seem like that. Like I think Jokic started off like 1 for 6 or something, and he finished the game like 8 for 15. So I mean that just tells you like right there. And then on top of that, like Jokic, again, in the great words of the great Mike Jones, that man he saw these pink frosted donuts with no sprinkles, and he was eating them by the dozen.
Just real quick, the play that's on the screen right now is like, I don't know how nobody scored on this possession. And sure, there was others standing around by some other people, but like Ayton just stands here.
Yeah, this was
I don't
horrible.
know how Jokic didn't score this. But sure, like Chris Paul, Booker maybe should have ran up and done something, but like Ayton's just standing there and then barely gets back on this. I mean, he did okay right there. I think that was on Christian Braun, but I don't even care if I get a copyright claim for that either. That was just an embarrassing play right there. Ayton was just standing there.
The thing is too, like, and I get it, like Durant, I know he had 7 turnovers, which is a lot, but to me, honestly, it felt like there wasn't much there tonight other than him. That might just be me, but it felt like he was doing everything that he needed to do as a scorer, and he shot well, 63% from the field, 33% from 3, didn't miss a free throw. I think he might be the only player on the team that shot above the team's percentage in every category, and it's Kevin Durant. Okay, like he's taking the most shots on the team. He's the number 1 option. So he's doing all this at an efficient level. But on top of that, he needed to piggyback up on what Ayton was not doing, because he wasn't rebounding the ball. Like literally, he had 2 offensive rebounds tonight. Ayton did, and Durant had
14 points, 7 rebounds, 7 for 11 shooting.
Durant had 14 rebounds and 29 points. So, and on top of that, he had 3 blocks. I think all in like the first half too, which was when this was only a game.
One of those was a great chase down block too. I will say that about KD.
Yeah, but
great
like
chase down block.
You would expect your center to be the rim protector, and I get that was a chase down. That's different, but. The other 2 times they were around the rim, around the basket, and like you would expect your center to be there in that situation. The one time Ayton just stood there, he didn't get off his feet, and Durant came over out of nowhere and like just blocked it. I don't know if you remember.
Thank you for saying that too. Just real quick on Ayton, I saw a lot of Ayton, like he would contest the shot, but he wouldn't jump.
Yeah,
he would just put his hand up, and especially in the first half. And that's one thing that drives me crazy about it. I'm sorry to cut you off. The way you're talking about that,
here's the thing about Ayton, and like, because they just played the Clippers. Okay, so you just played Zubac. That's who you're guarding most of the game. And Zubac, I don't know if he's taller than Jokic. They're probably around the same height. Maybe Zubac is like an inch taller or something like that. The thing about Zubac, though, is that he shoots it more horizontal. His hook shots are horizontal. Jokic has a finesse, and he puts arc on his shots. So you need to get up higher.
Plus the wingspan too.
Even though Jokic is not athletic by any means, the way that he puts the touch on the ball, like even just on a jump shot, he shoots it like Larry Bird, like it goes almost like a rainbow. Whereas like someone like a Zubac, for instance, it's going to be like a straight line drive. So maybe that's why he felt like, I don't need to jump as much or anything like that. Like you kind of have to at least get up, but you got to still be wise, because Nikola Jokic is one of the top 5 players in the league. So if you're leaving your feet every time, then you're probably going to foul out. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but again, like this is just a testament of why it's hard to stop the Nuggets. I think all 6 of their players that had 10 points today, I think all of them could have 10 points per game in the series. And I think, honestly, of the 4 guys that scored more than 10 for Phoenix, their big 4, you know, with Durant, Booker, Paul, and Ayton, those might be the only guys that average more than 10 a game in this series.
Much later.
But I think part of it is just like, as long as you're contesting the shot as well, like that's the difference. Because do you remember that one play when Ayton looked scared to go against Jokic, and he was like shaking like his knees and stuff, and then he tried dribbling into the paint. He did a hook shot, and it bounced so hard off the back of the rim.
I saw
that.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just instances like that where it's like they're playing solid defense, but then we got other guys who aren't really putting a hand up on the other side.
I think Ayton hesitated way too long on that too, because sometimes he does do that. Like he'll catch the ball, then he'll turn around, kind of try to do a little whatever, and then he'll shoot it. But that time, you know, like you mentioned, his knees and his legs started shaking, and he kind of didn't seem like he had full control over the ball, and he just threw it up there. And Ayton can hit that shot. He is a decent mid-range. He sometimes floats them up, and even though I think it looks off, somehow they go in.
Yeah. It's a shame because even last series he looked so confident. You remember that one game where he had like every time they'd feed him in like the short pick and roll, and he hit like 7 or 8 mid-range jumpers in a row. And I'm like, okay, this guy's not even thinking about it. He's just putting it up, and it's smooth every time. But it seems like he's getting like those. Maybe it was just a fluke. Maybe it was just the matchup or whatever. But like maybe he's getting the tendencies of like how I compared with like sometimes Kobe White used to rush stuff, or sometimes like Andrew Wiggins in the day used to rush stuff a lot. Like it seems like it hasn't left yet, right. And this is his 5th year in the league. Like you're the number 1 overall pick. It's not just your 5th year in the league, but you were the number 1 overall pick at this point. Like. You gotta be confident in yourself as well.
Yeah, and I always use the word hesitate. You know, I don't know why. I just think he hesitates too much. And also, because you know, you were talking about him being the number 1 pick and all that stuff. For me, it's also he was. I'm just making sure this looks correct on my side of the screen. Yeah, okay, it does. My whole thing is just he was arguably the best player. You know, before we got to the finals, you know what I mean? Like leading up to the finals, he was arguably the best player. And it's the same conversation. I mean, every like Suns podcast that I listen to, it's the same conversation. Ayton's great. Ayton shows flashes of this and that, Ayton this and that, but there's just no consistency. It's an effort thing. You and I have talked about it. Every guest I've ever had on this channel and I've ever talked about it. It's just effort, consistency, like what we're watching right here, man. And again, there was someone in my comments saying, oh, well, Devin Booker was standing around. Okay, well, Deandre Ayton was right there. You know what I mean?
Deandre Ayton, I believe, started the play on him too.
Exactly. And again, there was a recovery play where I think Christian Braun drove it up, but still, like that, this play is unacceptable, man. Like you can't do that. This is the playoffs, dude.
The thing is too, like, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say last night, I think there was like a hustle play with like the Kings or whatever it was. Like that's the kind of hustle and effort we need to see. Guys diving on the floor and everything. Like, I don't know. This was just such a disappointing game, disappointing effort by Deandre Ayton. I don't care what the numbers say. And really just a disappointing game for the entire Suns team, man. We haven't even talked about KD and Booker that much because even though they both had like 29 and 26 or whatever it was, just didn't seem like it mattered.
Yeah, the thing is too, like at first, you know, when Ayton was first drafted, like straight out the gate, like we saw like Luka was better and we saw Trae Young was better. Then eventually Shea came into the mix, and then now like you see Jaren this year, he's an all-star defensive player of the year. What Jalen Brunson's doing, what your boy Mikal Bridges is doing now in Brooklyn, what Anthony Simons is doing, what Mitchell Robinson did in the series against Cleveland. All those guys, though, they either play hard or they've had like a superstar breakout, and they've shown progression in their game to some degree. DeAndre Ayton to me, like he looks like the same player. And there's nothing wrong like with being as good as he first came into the league. That's a good player still because 16 and 10 when he first came in, still averaging 18 and 10.
Yep.
Okay, like shooting around the same. Okay,
shows flashes on defense.
You're still a great player, but
still a great player.
You would think that the number 1 overall pick would show evolution
and yeah, exactly.
And all these guys below him, like I'm starting to think he might not even be like if you did a redraft, he might not even go top 6 or 7. I'm starting to think that.
Yeah.
Because look at how good Brunson's been lately, and Mikal Bridges, and obviously Shea, obviously Trey, obviously Luka. Like
probably guys we're forgetting about too in that draft.
Simons, obviously too.
Yeah.
Like
I like Anthony Simons a lot.
There's just a lot of guys that have shown progression, and maybe that came from nothing, and now there's something big, or they're going to be something big next year, the year after. Like we can count on it because they've shown that they can get better. Nothing to me, like I'm at the point where DeAndre Ayton's no matter what going to be a great player, but I'm at the point where he's probably never going to be an all-star because we've gone 5 straight years, and for 5 straight years he's been basically the same player every single year. It doesn't give me, it makes me feel that next year he's going to be doing this again, and then the year after he'll be doing this again, and then eventually when he gets too old he'll show a decline, but he's never going to have the rise that people thought he would. And that's kind of the thing. It's like if he did, it would probably take, people wouldn't be looking at Chris Paul being washed right now, would they? Like, I mean, like that's kind of like narratives that have been formed, like he's not the same player, or there wouldn't be like as much talking about like how the bench is just not this, not that. If DeAndre Ayton was as good as he should be right now, the Phoenix Suns should have no problem winning this series. But he's just not that player right now. And I'm sorry, that was, I guess, like, didn't think I'd be doing a big rant here, but
that's why you're on the show, man. I gave you permission to do it.
That's just the reality of it. It's been 5 years. He hasn't developed as a player. And like, I hope maybe he shuts me up. I mean, like other than those, I mean, he had a good first 3 rounds to the playoffs in 2021. I wouldn't say that it was necessarily like proof that he was evolving though. He played better than normal, but it wasn't like a huge stepping stone from what he did either in the regular season. He just seemed like the most consistent player. So yeah, like, I don't know. Yeah.
There were some moments in this game where he was okay, but it's like that's stuff where Ayton should be doing that in his sleep. You know what I mean? Like he can average 18 and 10 in his sleep. And then just real quick, maybe I'm going on the other side of the street with this. Like, I don't know DeAndre Ayton as a person, but I think he is overconfident to a fault. I don't know if you heard his media thing the other day where he was like, oh, I don't know what you guys are talking about with my motor. I run on Tesla battery. I'm dominating. Like, I get why he's saying it. Like, if I was 7 foot whatever and 250 pounds, I would probably be talking shit too, but like, he's a little too confident. You know what I mean? And look, I've said this a million times. I've said this a million times. I'm his biggest believer, but I'm also his biggest critic. Tonight, I'm being a big critic. DeAndre Ayton, you have to be better. You just absolutely have to be better. No more standing around. Show some damn effort. Command that damn ball. Even Shaq said that tonight. I don't normally care what Shaq says, but he's like, command that damn ball and dunk it down. Don't skyhook it down. Don't float it in. Just dunk that ball down, man. And then I think we talked about this earlier. There was like one play where he had like I think it was mismatch. It might have been on Bruce Brown or somebody on their bench who was smaller than them. And he missed the shot. He backed him down and the defender pretty much locked him up and he just threw it up and missed it. Be better, DeAndre Ayton. Just be better.
See, the thing is like with Ayton, like it gives me like, they're not the same type of player. They don't play the same way, but it makes me think of like Andrea Bargnani a little bit. Because this guy, like when he came in, he was the first overall pick and maybe not like as much hype because Ayton didn't get much hype either when he first got drafted. So honestly, in that respect, there shouldn't be as much pressure, but he came in, he was still solid. And then by the time he left, he peaked as a solid player, maybe arguably an all-star if there was like maybe 5-10 people injured in a year and you had to make 5 or 10 replacements. And that's probably where Ayton would fit right now. Like, and meanwhile, at the same time, like in that draft class, you got guys like Kyle Lowry, who was almost shoveled out of the league in his first couple years. Now he's a multiple-time All-Star. He's an NBA champion. You got guys like Paul Millsap, who was almost not drafted, and then he came in and showed out. Guys like Rondo weren't even picked top 20. You know, like PJ Tucker was out of the NBA for like 5 years after his rookie year, and then he had to come back and work his way in. But all those guys probably had more successful careers than him. And I'm looking at like Ayton, and as a rookie, he was still a top 3 rookie. I think he finished 3rd in rookie of the year behind Luka and Trey. But then now you see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is definitely better than him. Mikal Bridges with Brooklyn is definitely better. Jalen Brunson is definitely better. And it's just like, when is Ayton going to take the leap that these other guys have taken? You know, like me personally, I wouldn't let that slide, as some people say, like, just because like you were the number 1 overall pick. Okay. And maybe he gets partially a pass because the number 2 overall pick, Marvin Bagley, hasn't panned out quite as good either. So maybe people will give a pass to Ayton. But I'm going to tell you right now, if Luka and Trey Young, if Luka and Trey Young were the top 2 picks, or 2nd and 3rd pick right behind him, he'd be getting a lot more heat than he does even now.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like he partially gets a pass, I think, because of Bagley's career. But that's just how I feel, and he needs to be better. And if they want to win this series, like, he's going to need to defend well, and he needs to be, because he can be athletic. I don't know about as athletic as Gordon, but he can be a really athletic player. And if he is, like, he should have way more than 7 rebounds, and he shouldn't allow 12 more to the guy he's guarding.
Just real quick, I didn't get the full tweets, but Kevin Durant said, I only had 1 assist, 7 turnovers. We're not going to win basketball games like that. And then I've heard Monty Williams say this before. I thought they were more physical, played with more force. I've heard him say that a lot this season. And just real quick, a couple of comments I wanted to address here. The Nuggets took 17 more shots than the Suns. They did that a lot in the first half too, I believe. They took a lot more shot attempts, especially threes in the first half. But if we are going to shoot mid-range, it has to be efficient. Exactly. And we must limit turnovers and opponent rebounding. And then just real quick, I'm still stuck on Payne and Ross needing minutes. 2 guys that bring swag and shot-making ability, and with Campaign, a little bit of playmaking. Just real quick on Campaign, I'm not defending Monty Williams here, but he is coming back from an injury. Just throwing that out there. I think that's kind of getting a little overlooked. I mean, it's not like, yeah, he's obviously able to play. He did play, and he's looked okay a little bit here and there, but like, I don't think he's 110% Campaign yet. Just saying, not defending Monty, but just kind of telling Suns fans to remember that. And then real quick, just one more comment. I'm not saying Ayton doesn't do this every night, because I'm sure he works his ass off and everything, but shaking my head, if I was Ayton's height and was offered even a fraction of his max, I would play my heart out every single night. Exactly.
Yeah, like the thing to like Backcourt Highlights said, I don't think this loss should be blamed on Ayton. I'm not blaming the loss on Ayton. No. I'm just saying, like, where the Suns would be right now would be they would be at a much more confident place as a whole, I think, if Ayton had taken that step that he should have by now.
Ayton would be getting more All-Star votes. He'd be like in the top 10.
I get it that Luka and Trey, and I don't even know really about Trey, but at least Luka is like a superstar. And Trey Young and Shai, these guys are all-stars, probably Mikal Bridges next year. Can he at least be all-star caliber as the number 1 overall pick? That's all I'd ask out of him, because he hasn't shown much growth. And if he did, then I feel like the Suns would be in a much better place. This guy would dominate the glass. He'd be playing athletically, if that's a word, athletically. Yeah. He'd be playing more athletic. He'd be a solid defender by now. Michael Porter Jr. has shown more defensive growth than him, and that guy couldn't guard a parked car when he first came out, and he had a bad back.
Yep.
So
fell in the draft.
Yeah, and that should say a lot too. Same draft as Ayton, by the way. And I'd probably take Michael Porter over Ayton. I'm sorry, but I probably would. Wish you could go either way. They're both up and down, but yeah, okay. You know what? I'll give that to Ayton. I won't go that far, but it could be that almost just tells you that the Suns need to win this series.
And you guys,
if
just
Deandre, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, even though we are trashing Ayton, this isn't 110% Ayton's fault. It's not. This was a team loss. Kevin Durant, like I said, he had 29 and whatever, but like it didn't seem very impactful. Booker was not the player he was in the first round series. Our bench was terrible. Yeah, this was legit a team loss.
And
now,
Chris
sure,
Paul, like
Ayton
I
gets
said,
a little blame for it, but I don't.
What's up, Suns Geek?